Well, it's New Year, and that's a good thing, I suppose. We're kind of in transition here a little bit. I notice we still got the wreaths up, still got one of the trees up, and I like that. I kind of like the slow transition from what was to what is supposed to be. And it's still the Christmas season. We're going to wrap up our series today on hope, and so I think it kind of feels good to have that tied in. Now, you may be the type of person that still has Christmas decorations up. I am not going to ask you to raise a hand. You know who you are. You're in the same category as my late mother, she was a champion at this. She could leave stuff up till April. Seriously, I don't know why, but she could. Or you could be the type of person that as soon as the presents are open, you're getting the bins out. You're putting stuff away. Ours waits till after New Year's, and then it's a 2-day event getting everything put away, but the house is clean and bare, and it looks the way it's supposed to after the time of wreaths and trees and stuff. So we're kind of in that position right now where things are changing. We've swapped out calendars. We're looking forward to something new. The days are getting longer. Believe it or not, they are, technically. And so we are heading into something different. Now, here in Michigan, we've got a long winter ahead of us, so it might not feel that way. Things are changing. New things are coming. And I'm glad for that. I'm happy for that. It fills me with a little bit of hope. And that's what we need today, a little bit of hope. So we're going to wrap up our conversation on hope, this thread of hope, because in times of danger, hope will find a way. From Psalm chapter 72, verse 12, listen to this. He will rescue the poor when they cry to him. He will help the oppressed who have no one to defend them. He feels pity for the weak and the needy, and he will rescue them. He will redeem them from oppression and violence, for their lives are precious to him. That's good stuff. I like that. Our look into the story of Christmas, which has been going on since, goodness, I think Advent started the last week of November. So we've been doing this for a minute. We've seen a lot of emotions. Emotions have kind of been the name of the game this particular Advent season. So we've looked at desperation, and we've looked at what it feels to be vulnerable. Most people don't want to feel that way, but we looked at it because it's important for us to understand that. We've seen trembling and fear and tried to understand that a little bit. We've endured times of silence, and we've seen the change that comes when we're becoming something new and something is changing in our lives. And all those emotions they're all over the place, but they teach us a little bit about this thread of hope. But there's one thing that usually isn't associated with Christmas. We think Christmas, it's happy, it's joy, it's holly jolly, it's all that sort of thing. Even New Year, it's all celebration. It's funny hats and blowing on I don't know what those things are called, the things that blow and make the funny noises. And it's the fireworks. Every time I heard a boom on New Year's Eve, it's like, there's $100. There's another $100. There's another $100. It's okay, Harley, it's okay. She was afraid. She didn't like that. Hey, it's celebratory. Everything about this time is happy, but we're going to look at something today that isn't so happy. Because there's part of this story that's wrapped up in dangerous things, deadly things, real danger, real consequences. Now, we got a touch of that when we talked about the flight to Egypt of Mary and Joseph and the baby. And we tried to put ourselves in their shoes, which is difficult to do because it's nothing we've had to deal with, most likely. But to be a refugee, to be on the run, to have somebody chasing you, that's a difficult thing to experience. They were literally on the run for their lives. I've never been on anyone's hit list, at least not that I'm aware of. But they were on a hit list. They were on a list to be terminated. And they had to run. Now, if you get on one of those lists, and God forbid that happens, but you will have some danger in your life. And you better learn how to use your elbows and knees because you're going to be running a lot if that becomes reality. But this next part of the story kind of raises the level a little bit, and it does show us that in time of danger, that hope will find a way out. And that's important, because when we're in moments of difficulty and trouble, and maybe even danger, God provides a way. Hope finds a way. I would imagine in this room there are probably some folks that have experienced some real danger before. I've heard some stories from you, but I would imagine in your life, if you go back, there have been moments when you were really dealing with something that could have gone sideways really, really quickly. So unless you've lived a completely sheltered life and you've been wrapped in bubble wrap, you have probably experienced some danger at some point. Now, off the top of my head, I started to think about some things in my life, and I went way, way back to some of the things that I've had to experience. And I remember once, and this is a story for another time, but there was a home invasion where I was home and I was in the 6th grade. That's a story, and I was scared. There are times that I still think about that. But that was a very scary, scary moment in the 6th grade, and hey, you're not supposed to be here. One of those moments. In that same place that we lived, and this was the north side of Flint up in the projects, there was a fight down the street, and 2 guys had a gun, and I just happened to be in the path on the sidewalk where the one guy was pointing, and I'm like, well, I'm going to die now. I think that was the 7th grade. That was not a good time. That was dangerous. Difficult things. I mentioned last week I dumb enough to get stuck in a hurricane. That was fun. Good time. Good time. I don't recommend it. Literally, you can do this. We had fun before the hurricane really kicked in. When the winds start to kick in, people go outside, because we do. And we go outside and you try to let the wind hold you up. Because you lean forward like this, and I could lean all the way across these stairs, and the wind is blowing so hard it'll just hold you up, and this is so much fun until it starts to blow you back. Not a good time. Not a good time. I recall there was a time that I was down in Central America, and we were trying to drive back up the mountain. Might have been up or down, I'm not sure, but in the dark, so there's no lights, on a one-track road that's on the side of a mountain that I know is not all there, because I saw it before, and it's raining, and it's in the dark, and you know that if the tire misses, you're gone, and they'll never find you again. That was more fun than scary, but it was dangerous. Maybe you've had moments like that before where you just weren't sure about things. Maybe you were on that flight that just had just a little bit too much turbulence. You ever been on a flight like that where you're just not sure? And you see things moving that shouldn't be moving, and you look at the flight attendants and they kind of have that look in their eye? Danger. Maybe you've been caught on the expressway in a blizzard. That's always fun. You know there's 3 lanes, but you can only see 2. And the semi is somewhere in the middle, and he's like, I'm going. And he flies by you, and there's snow, and now I can't see anything. Those are fun moments when you're just not sure and you're white-knuckling all the way down the expressway. Danger can come from a school bully. Danger can come from an abusive spouse. Danger can come from walking in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time. Danger could be anywhere. It could come as a result of standing up and speaking out against injustice. That's why a lot of people don't, because, man, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to get beat. I don't want to get killed. So I'm just going to be quiet. But then you see folks who do stand up and say, that's not right. And then you do see some of them get hurt because of that. You use your First Amendment right, and that could come back to bite you a little bit. So a lot of times we avoid dangerous situations. If I can, I'll do that. If I can see danger in front of me and I don't feel like I need to go into that danger, I'm not going to. I'll go around. I'll wait. Well, there's a thunderstorm, and oh, look, a tornado. I don't think I'm going to go to the store right now. I think I'll just wait. That's the smart thing to do. We change our travel plans. We stay away from scary places. If we think danger could be a participant, generally speaking, we don't go. We're going to stay away from that sort of thing. But there are times There are times when facing danger is absolutely 100% necessary. Especially in the life of a believer, there are times when danger is a part of the game. There are people whose jobs put them in danger every day. You think of police officers, my goodness. The thought of being a police officer and having just to do the simplest thing, a domestic dispute. You don't know what's behind that door. A traffic stop. You don't know what's going to happen. But they do those things. It's part of the job. I have great respect for firefighters. Fire in a building, I'm not going in. And in they go. In they go because it's part of the job. They face that danger. I even see folks on the expressway who stop to help somebody else get a flat tire, and they're out there changing a tire. If you've ever gotten out of your car on the expressway in Detroit, let's just say 696 for fun, you can feel the rush of the cars racing by you, and you just hope they're paying attention. There's danger that's involved with people who do that. We were on 275 not too long ago. I think it was the beginning of the season because I had just put that ridiculous wreath on the front of my car. And I thought I had closed the hood, but because the wreath was sticking up, I didn't close the hood all the way. And so we're driving down 275, and why is my hood doing this? I get out of the car, and 275 is not that bad. I get out of the car, I realize what I've done, and by the time I had gotten back in the car, there was one of those vans that just helps people, MDOT. They just stopped. They said, "You okay? Can we help you?" I thought about that. No, we're fine. I thought about them. These are guys who go out when it's cold, when it's wet, when it's dangerous, when it's dark, and they help people on the expressway. Danger. Danger. Maybe you're that kid who broke up the playground fight. Maybe you were that kid. I don't care. He's twice my size, but he can't pick on that little kid, so I'm going in. Maybe that was you. Maybe you're the concerned citizen who stands up to tyranny and says, "No more, not doing that." Sometimes choosing to do the right thing can be hazardous to your health. You better have health insurance. You better. But when you do those things, when in your heart, I know I've got to do this thing. I know that person needs help. I know that I've got to stop. I know that I've got to intervene. I know that I have to do that. You know that you're doing the right thing. When that happens, something amazing happens inside of us. Fear turns into something else. It turns into resolve. And you don't think about it. A lot of times you'll think about it afterwards, like, what did I just do? Why did I do that? Was I insane? But in that moment, this is the right thing to do, and I'm going to do it. The risk of danger in that moment, it pales in comparison to the joy of understanding in that moment, this is what I'm supposed to do, who I'm supposed to be, my calling, my purpose in this moment. And so today, that's where we're going to find the heroes in our text. Let's take a closer look. Folks who chose to do the right thing at the right time and put their lives on the line. Matthew chapter 2. Matthew chapter 2, starting in verse 1. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose. We've come to worship him." King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, as was everyone in Jerusalem. They called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of religious law and asked, "Where is the Messiah supposed to be born?" "In Bethlehem, in Judea," they said. "For this is what the prophet wrote, 'And you, O Bethlehem in the land of Judah, are not least among the ruling cities of Judah. For a ruler will come from you who will be the shepherd for my people Israel.'" Then Herod called for a private meeting with the wise men, and he learned from them the time when the star first appeared. Then he told them, "Go to Bethlehem, search carefully for the child, and when you find him, come back and tell me, so I can go and worship him too." That's where the music, dun, 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 that's where that comes in right about there. There's some foreshadowing in that moment. Let me give you a little background on our good friend King Herod. He started out like a lot of politicians in kind of low-level positions. He was the governor of Galilee, but then he quickly rose through the ranks and he became king not just of Galilee, but of Judea and Samaria. He had a trifecta going there. And he did this because he was very loyal to Rome. There's a Jewish man who's very loyal to Rome, and he did it because it bought him things. Favor, power, money, all the perks that come with being on top. So he would do the things that they wanted him to do because he wanted to be blessed with riches and power. Very political. Politics don't change. The same as they were then, the same as they are now. Power has the ability to corrupt. And if you look at Herod, you look at his biographical information, his background, who he was, and you see his family. There's a lot of family hostility, a lot of suspicion, even the ruthless murder of family members, people that just didn't sit right with him, people that he didn't really care for so much, including his own son. He killed his own son, had him killed because his son started to get popular. The people really started to like his son. They thought he was okay. Matter of fact, some began to think, this is a guy who's going to take over for his dad. Matter of fact, we like him better than his dad. He was a threat to the throne, so he didn't make it home one night because Herod had him killed. There's a saying at the time that it is safer to be Herod's swine than to be his son. And the reason that they said that is because Herod kept kosher. He was a good Jewish boy. So he kept kosher. He didn't eat swine. It was safer to be Herod's swine than his own son. So that brings us into the story that we do know. He hears about this newborn king of the Jews, and immediately he's fearful. They're already calling him a king. He's already being called a king, not a potential king. He's the king of the Jews, and so he's filled with fear of losing power to a baby. He's not interested in worship. We know this. We understand the end of the story. He's interested in locating the child and killing him. No matter the cost, no matter what it takes, he's not taking my throne. This is my throne. How evil do you have to be to kill a child to save your own skin? How depraved do you have to be for that to be true about you? It's amazing. Let's keep reading here. Matthew chapter 2, verse 9. After this interview, the wise men went their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. And they opened their treasure chests and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What a joyful experience. What joy there must have been in that moment. They were on the road for possibly years. We don't know exactly how far they had to travel or exactly who they were or where they came from. But now the moment is there. However long they've been on the road, they are finally there. And so they're very joyful. Finally seeing this child that they've read about and heard about. And I'm sure that it was an amazing time in their life. This part of their existence was just amazing because they've got the fulfillment of their quest. The thing they've been looking for, the thing they've been hoping for is right there in front of them. And I can imagine, after having traveled for as long as they have and done all that they had to do to get to this point, that there might have been an exhale. Oh, we finally did it. Oh, high fives all around. We can rest. What's next? What do we do now? Oh man, we completed the quest. We finished the journey. Now what? That's a very good question. Now what? Because in their hearts, they felt something wasn't right. Something's wrong. Something's not right here. We just had a meeting with a guy, and I can guarantee you these guys were smart. They could sense. If you ever been in the presence of somebody you knew what they were telling you wasn't true? You ever been in the presence of somebody where you just kind of felt a little creepy? Something's not right in this moment. I hear the words coming out of their mouth. I don't believe them. And so it didn't set particularly well with them in that moment. And then God said, well, I'm going to confirm your feelings from Matthew chapter 2, verse 12. When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route. For God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. Now, what we don't know is if God gave them details. We don't know if God told them, here's why. Because those are the questions I ask. Well, why? Because I got a plan. This is what I'm supposed to do. And the king told me I got to come back. This is a king. I got to come back. It doesn't say any of that. We don't know if God told them why you should disobey the king's order. He just told them, this is what you need to do. This is what I want you to do. And in that moment, however the discussion went, whether it went back and forth, we don't really know. In that moment, they chose to follow God. They chose to follow God. They all had a dream, and if you all have the same dream, you might say, that feels divine. These were people that dealt with supernatural things, and so this would have been something that they would have understood to be, we better pay attention to it. They chose to follow God. Now, in the moment, maybe that doesn't seem particularly brave, because they're not in the presence of Herod. He's in Jerusalem. They're in Bethlehem. They're somewhere else in this moment. So it's a few miles away. They got a little bit of a head start. But Herod had a reputation, a bad reputation. He had a reputation of being violent, of being ruthless, of doing whatever it took to remain in power. And that's probably something they would have known. It was well known that that's who he was. And defying the order of any king, there's some consequences. You don't just say no. You're going to be in trouble if you choose to say no. And so in the midst of potential danger, as far as a king in this case, they know he's killed people. They do the wrong thing, they could be killed as well. So they make a choice. And in that moment, they make the right choice, and they know that there could be a cost. But no matter that cost, they say, this is what we're going to do. And they would have been right. To be afraid, they would have been right. Listen to this, Matthew chapter 2, verse 16. Herod was furious when he realized that the wise men had outwitted him. He sent soldiers to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, based on the wise men's report of the star's first appearance. Herod's brutal action fulfilled what God had spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A cry was heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeps for her children, refusing to be comforted, for they are dead. Narcissists refuse to admit defeat. Even when they're wrong, they're not wrong. They simply refuse to lose. So instead of a surgical strike, let's go find the wise men. Let's go find these guys. Let's just find one child. He decides, let's just kill everybody. Let's kill them all. Now, some liturgies will go back and there's no census on this. There's no real empirical data on any of this, but some suggest that many as 144,000 children could have been killed that night. Now, logically, that's probably not the case. Logically, given Bethlehem's size, it was probably closer to 20 children. Wow, 144,000 versus 20, it's not that bad. That's 20 children too many. 20 children too many. That's what evil looks like. But that's also where hope does its thing. That's where hope shows up in that moment. Because Herod thinks he's got this perfect plan. And as soon as he does this, God intervenes. God shows up and makes a way of escape. The wise men followed the leading of God to Bethlehem. This is where he called them to go. And then they followed his leading again, away from Herod, away from his evil plan. They defied risk. They said, we're going to do the right thing. We're not going back. And they did it in faith. Because here's the thing about hope. Hope doesn't flinch. Oh, I flinch a lot. Things scare you. Oh, hope doesn't flinch. Oh no, hope stands there and says, what else you got? Hope doesn't flinch. It stands tall. Hope does the hard thing in the face of hard things, saying, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that at all. See, God's presence doesn't erase danger. This is the thing that I've learned in the vast stores of my knowledge. I've learned that God doesn't remove us from danger. He doesn't remove us from trouble. He doesn't remove us from difficult times. His presence stays with us and leads us through danger. Leads us through danger, but leads us through with purpose. There's a reason why we go through this. There's a reason why, or what we can learn from this. I'm going to watch over you, and people are going to see what's been done. His presence, it generates light. The light we always talk about. His presence generates that light, and it cannot be extinguished. From Psalm chapter 72, listen to this. The western kings of Tarshish and other distant lands will bring him tribute. The eastern kings of Sheba and Seba will bring him gifts. All kings will bow before him, and all nations will serve him. He will rescue the poor when they cry to him. He will help the oppressed, who have no one to defend them. He feels pity for the weak and the needy, and he will rescue them. He will redeem them from oppression and violence, for their lives are precious to him. Thank you, God. We are never promised an easy road. We're not promised a safe road. I know sometimes we think we are, but we're not promised a safe road. We are promised that God will rescue us. We are promised that God will redeem us, that he will walk with us. And if this passage does anything for us, and if you don't hear anything else as we wrap up, if there's nothing else that you get from this, just understand that your life is precious to God. In this moment, that's what I want you to walk out the door with this. Your life is precious to God. He knows who you are. He knows where you are. He knows what you are feeling in this moment. He knows what you have to deal with tomorrow. Your life is precious. He loves you. And he will always provide a way for us when there's no way in front of us, when the doors are locked, when we don't know where to go, when the path isn't clear. He will always provide hope. Count on it. You are going to need it this year. I'm going to need it this year. Count on it. Hope always finds a way. Let me pray for you. God, thank you. Thank you for this group of believers in this room this morning. Thank you, God, that their hearts are open, that their minds are open, that they've got ears to hear. Bless them today, please. Encourage them today. Empower them today. Fill them with hope today. No matter what's in front of us, whatever difficulty, whatever danger, whatever trouble, whatever unseen thing is in our path, empower them to go through it with grace and with strength and with light. Bless us this year. Help us to be light in this world. Help us to make a difference in our community. Encourage us. Empower us, we ask. In the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.